Uh, uh, uh. Hi guys. We're doing a mic test for the Age of Empires final, best of three. Testing microphone. Test, 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 test. Test, test. Uh, yeah. 네트워크 테스트는 이상 없는 것 같은데 확인되면 그냥 종료해 주세요. 예, 알겠습니다. Uh, testing microphone for upstairs. Mic test, 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 test. We'll be starting right away after this test. Age of Empires final, best of three. Test, 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 testing microphone, test, test, test. 알겠습니다.
Coming up in a couple minutes, Age of Empires 3, the finals here at WCG 2007. We're going to have Parfait from the United States versus I Am Grunt from Korea. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be commentating this since I do not play Age of Empires. I'll be giving you a camera in-game, though, so you guys can watch what's happening. All right, welcome to Cyberspace Stage 1. We've got Age of Empires 3, I Am Grunt versus Parfait from the United States. Dutch versus Dutch. Once again, I'm just going to be observing because, unfortunately, I do not know how to commentate Age of Empires 3. So I'll give you a bird's eye view of the action, what's happening, etc. All right, it looks like we've actually got a commentator who knows what he's doing. Your name?
My name is Milo, Mr. Milo.
We've got Mr. Milo. I assume he plays Age of Empires 3. I'll be tossing to him so he can show you and tell you what's going on.
Alrighty, so at this point we're just looking at Grunt here, getting one of the better treasures on this map, which is 140 food. Take a look over at his town, and as Parfait scouts it, Grunt pops a couple villagers into that town center, which is now shooting at the Envoy. Should take it out there. Envoy goes down. Let's go back and take a look at Parfait's Explorer. Over here, not doing much. No good treasures around there. We see Grunt's Envoy back, scouting the map. Quick look at the map shows us that Grunt has a pretty good hunt. That, as you can see, he's got one villager out here that he shoots the other hunt towards his town center. So it's protected later in the game. He doesn't have to go outside of his town. Go look at Parfait's base as well. He doesn't have that large herd of bison that Grunt has, but he does have some deer by his town, which are a little closer, that he's going to be moving in. Both players have a couple of gold mines in their or close to their base. Parfait has 2. Grunt has 2 as well. Grunts are a little better. He's got one quite close to his town center and then one behind, which is advantageous if Parfait is being aggressive, and he can kind of go sit back there, whereas Parfait's is a little farther out, although as we can see here, he's got another gold mine. So at this point, relatively fair as the gold mines go, and Grunt's got a little better hunt. Let's go back around, check out the explorers. Looking at Parfait's now, and back to Grunt's. He's picked up a native warrior, and they're just going to walk around. The unclaimed treasures that are of importance at this point is this one, which is 320 XP. Good treasure. So we see that both players have advanced to the second age. They're both Dutch, so that means they can build banks, which we see Grunt do right off the bat, and Parfait as well. He hasn't had his up yet. Parfait has some idle villagers going here. We should see them start working relatively quickly now. There they are, back to building some more banks. Grunt as well appears to be putting up a barracks. This means that he's probably going to be a little aggressive in the second age and push on Parfait. We take a look back at Parfait's base to get an idea of what he's doing. He appears to be throwing up some banks and 700 wood shipment, which could mean that he's also going to fight in the second age, or he could be doing a fast fortress. Going and looking back at Grunt, he's still got those 2 banks. One interesting thing that that Grunt does that is kind of unique from Dutch players is that he likes to spread his base out. So you'll see here that he's got his barracks out here, his houses, his banks all kind of spread out around the map, and what that's doing is just giving him a little more line of sight. Yeah. Sorry, I need to talk a little louder here. So Grunt likes to spread out his base a little bit, as we see here, and that's going to give him just more line of sight for any potential attacks on his town, whereas you can see Parfait does a more standard Dutch build, and he's got all of his buildings a little closer together. And we see, I think that, so Parfait has just put up a stable, which could mean that he's going to do Hussar in the second age, or Reuter, which are ranged cavalry, in the third age. Not quite clear yet, because we can't see what shipment he's sending. Go back to Grunt. He's got about 10 skirmishers up. Skirmishers are an anti-infantry unit, but they're also good against ranged cavalry and are just an all-around strong unit. He doesn't appear to be playing very aggressively with them. Has built them more to make sure that Parfait isn't attacking him early. Grunt seems to be expecting Parfait to be playing a little more aggressively than he is. Now that he has his pikemen, I think we're going to see him go and attack Parfait. Parfait is building an artillery foundry, which means that he is going in all likelihood, to be doing a fast fortress, which means that he's foregoing military earlier in the game and teching up, as we would say, in order to get cannons and ranged cavalry to defend those cannons. So we see Grunt coming up now in his town with some skirmishers and pikemen. Pikemen are good anti-cavalry and are good against buildings. So we see this little dance that will begin now where Grunt moves in on his town and Parfait moves his villagers back and into the town center, and then Grunt will move his army back as we go back and forth, and we're trying to protect villagers for Parfait and kill villagers for Grunt. Taking a look back at Grunt's town, he's building up. He's just shipped 700 wood, which will allow him to build a couple more banks. As again, he's just trying to keep Parfait's economy in check here by using the military advantage he has to keep Parfait's villagers garrisoned, which is not being particularly effective at this point, as Parfait's gold mine is very close to his town center and his villagers aren't having to walk much in order to stay protected. We see now that Parfait has reached the fortress age, which means that he can now, from this building, the artillery foundry, start building falconets, and from here building reuters, which are those ranged anti-cavalry. Again, so we see this back and forth. Grunt moves up, villagers go in the town center. Grunt moves back, villagers come out. Back and forth, back and forth. A quick back look at Grunt's town. We see him putting up his fourth bank, which is the maximum number of banks that Dutch can build without sending extra cards. So at this point, other than building more villagers, his economy is pretty maxed out. You'll also notice that Grunt has not built any more military other than those 10 skirmishers, of which he has lost 2, and his 8 pikemen. So that's just showing us that he's investing in his economy and will probably be up to the third age soon. We now see here some reuters from Parfait, and I'm a little surprised that Grunt isn't going for this 320 XP treasure, or that he didn't go for it earlier, because that's a very good treasure and will give him, if not one shipment, at least well on his way to another shipment, and he kind of, I think, squandered that advantage. You'll see now that he's going to, instead of use his military to focus on disrupting Parfait's economy, he's going to try to protect his own economy now that Parfait has reached the third age and will start making military of his own. We see Parfait's ranged anti-cavalry, those reuters, which are also good against skirmishers in smaller numbers. We now see Grunt has advanced to the third age. And just a quick look, we'll see that Grunt probably has some more villagers than Parfait, although perhaps not, and is doing a more skirmisher-based army, while Parfait is doing, as we can see, the reuters. Parfait also only has 3 banks, while Dutch has 4, Grunt has 4. So Grunt has a little better economy here. Parfait will be looking, I think, to build some artillery quickly to make up to take advantage of the fact that he got to the third age much more quickly. So he's able to push Grunt with that advantage before Grunt's economy catches up, and he's able to just overwhelm Parfait. So now we see the first falconet, or just standard cannon, that Parfait has, and all those reuters to protect it. Looks like we're going to be coming up on a big battle here soon, and Parfait will retreat a little bit. Nope, he'll run up with those reuters and go a little back and forth. I think he is perhaps thinking that that one falconet is not going to hold up to Grunt's army, which Grunt has a sizable army of skirms, it looks like, over 20, and continues to make them. As we see now, Grunt has an artillery foundry of his own. We'll definitely be making either falconets, which we see here, or culverins, which are anti-artillery artillery. What Parfait is doing here is something that we've seen him do in his semifinal games against Nature Phoenix, which is do a heavy Reuter and falconet army, while Grunt is doing the more standard skirmisher army for Dutch, and he's probably also building some anti-artillery artillery at this point. So again, right now, Parfait is off. He's taken his army, and he's going to go try to get some hits off on Grunt's villagers while he stays relatively inside his town. We see him expanding out here to get some food. It's not clear at this point whether Grunt has noticed that or not. Probably not. But one thing about Age of Empires is that when a hunt is killed like this, even if you don't have direct line of sight to it, you're going to be able to notice that it's being hunted on. All right, so now we see Grunt walking into Parfait's town and the cannons firing. Back here, it looks like Parfait has gotten some hits off on Grunt's villagers, and now Grunt is retreating because he does not have anything that is strong enough to kill Parfait's artillery. So we see Parfait continuing to make Reuters and trying to disrupt Grunt's economy. And Grunt, interestingly enough, this is kind of an uncommon move. What he's done here is he's built Minutemen, which are units that you generally build from the town center to protect your town when it's under direct attack. But Grunt has decided to go ahead and buy them just to bolster his army. Not sure where they're going right now. They're going in the opposite direction of his town. So now we see, as far as artillery goes, where was it? Somewhere around here. Grunt has one culverin, which, as I mentioned before, is an anti-artillery, while Parfait has 2 culverins and 3 falconets. So if they were to clash head-on at this point, I would have to give the edge to Parfait unless Grunt seriously out-micros him. So we see some shots getting off on those pikemen there and continued Reuter production from Parfait. I would guess that Grunt is continuing to build more culverins. Yes, there we are. 2 more culverins. So it's a 3 culverin to 2 culverin and 3 falconet game here. So it'll be an interesting cannon micro battle here to see who can pull off the victory in this upcoming battle. We see Parfait controlling his Reuters and his falconets, and we see Grunt take out one of Parfait's culverins with his culverins, and it appears that Grunt will walk away from this battle having lost none of his culverins while taking out Parfait's 2 culverins. This leaves Parfait in a situation where he can't really be aggressive with these 3 falconets he has because Grunt's culverins will take them out rather easily. So one would think that at this point Parfait is building some culverins of his own to try to regain that advantage that he has with his falconets. Interestingly, Grunt has Minutemen down here. I'm not sure what they're doing. Perhaps he thought he could sneak them down and catch some hunters off guard. Oh, and we see now Grunt gets some free shots off on Parfait's villagers. It looks like he's taken down 4, might get 5. No, just sticks with 4 villagers. That's a relatively substantial blow to Parfait's economy, as he probably only has around 25 villagers to begin with. All right, unless I missed something, Parfait may have moved the villagers that he had down there. We see a little wall segment for line of sight. I'm not sure what happened there. We see now Parfait gets 2 really nice shots off, takes out 2 of Grunt's culverins, and regains the advantage and takes out, not quite, yes, takes out his other culverin. So now Parfait with, is it 2 or 3 culverins and 3 falconets to Grunt's large skirmisher army and 1 culverin. So again, we see that Parfait has retaken the advantage with his cannons. And it's an interesting situation with cannon wars because it's kind of a back and forth who can control their cannons better to get the better shots off. It's sometimes a little difficult to micro your cannons because they have an unpacking animation, as you'll see sometimes, where they have to kind of turn around on their wheels and get their guns facing in the correct direction. I think it's interesting here. Parfait is not playing particularly aggressively, although I would characterize him as having the advantage. He's playing a little defensively and looking to raid a little bit with his Reuters, and Grunt, I think, is anticipating this and kind of protecting the gold miners he has here. We see Parfait trying to sneak up behind him. Parfait does not realize that all of Grunt's skirmishers are here. He sees it now and runs away. We go back to Grunt's town. He now has 3 culverins of his own. So if he micros well, I would say he has the advantage, because if he can take out Parfait's culverins, he will have the larger skirmisher army, which counters Parfait's Reuters. So again, Grunt's economy at this point better than Parfait's. He's got 4 banks, 1, 2, 3, 4, to Parfait's 3, 1, 2, 3. And we've seen Grunt take out several of Parfait's villagers. So at this point, if you're Grunt, you're thinking that you've just got to maintain your advantage, not lose too big of your army, and slowly let the better economy that you have kick in to win the game. Oh, we see now here that Parfait has 5 culverins. It's all about protecting those falconets that he has and trying to maintain that advantage. Still, he's just deciding to invest his resources differently. He hasn't been making many more Reuters in the past couple minutes, focusing mainly on building culverins. You see here he also has halberdiers, which are an anti-cavalry infantry, very slow, but have a high attack and are good at defending against cavalry. And we see Parfait's artillery unpacking and taking some shots off on Grunt. Take a look at his economy. He's spread out to some of those gold mines, as has Grunt, and they do kind of a little back and forth. Again, Parfait with 5 culverins to Grunt's 4 now, and they'll unpack. And Parfait gets a shot off and takes out a culverin, as does Grunt. We'll see here they're trying to do a little micromanagement, trying to 2 culverins, 2 shots of 1 culverin, kill 1 culverin. And Parfait takes the big advantage. Now has 3 culverins, 3 falconets to Grunt's 2 culverins, which he's building. Let's see, we'll go back to his town. Parfait is just continuing to build more Reuter. We see here that Grunt's artillery have already unpacked. Parfait is finally getting some shots off with his falconets on Parfait's skirmishers, but now Grunt has the lone culverin to Parfait's 2 falconets, and Parfait will run up with his Reuters and take out Grunt's culverin, and will then bring up his falconets again. We don't see any culverins coming from Grunt or Parfait at this time, and we'll see the falconets shooting at Grunt's skirmishers, and the battle raging now as we see the Parfait's falconet well protected. And we also see now, interestingly, Grunt has some spies, which are an okay unit when unupgraded, but now he has the culverin, which will take out Parfait's falconet, and Parfait will be forced to retreat. Although we see that Parfait still has a sizable force of Reuters, Grunt has lost a considerable amount of his skirmishers, although he still has a good amount left. I would now still give the edge at this point in the game to Grunt, because he's maintaining, or at least not losing, his economic advantage, and not getting too far behind militarily, which is allowing him to just continue to build on his economic advantage, which will, unless he makes some big mistakes, I think carry the day for him, at least in this game. Parfait has shipped some skirmishers, and it looks like Grunt has built another barracks and a stable. So Grunt, his economy is really kicking in, and he's going to be able to start some more military production. And we see Grunt now is going to push. He has 3 culverins, and so does Parfait. No, Parfait has 4. Again, we'll see how this turns out. We see Parfait hunting down here, and Grunt's explorer coming to take a look. We see the battle. Grunt has not brought up his culverins to that fight, and so Parfait gets some shots off. But we also see Grunt has built some hussar, which are the basic cavalry that he presumably knows that Parfait is down here hunting. So if he gets down here and is able to get some free kills on Parfait's villagers, that could be a really serious blow to Parfait's already weakened economy. We'll see what happens here. Parfait appears not to have noticed as he's continuing to push and try to protect his cavalry. Here comes Grunt coming up on those villagers with those hussars. This could be a big move right now for Grunt. These hussars will probably die as Parfait has so much anti-cavalry as he's coming down to get him, but Grunt is getting a lot of hits off on Parfait's villagers, has killed at least 4 now. We see them just getting a lot of hacks in. Parfait just trying to move them away as quickly as possible. The Reuters will come up, but not before a considerable chunk of Parfait's economy is taken out. And we also see Grunt pushing at the same time. Parfait has a fort wagon out, although he should be careful that doesn't get killed. It's very vulnerable, but once he plants it, it will become a very strong building that is very hard to take out. Militarily, Grunt is down to 3 culverins still, and Parfait has 4 and 2 falconets. So again, what Grunt did there is he took the approach of investing resources in those hussar, which are relatively expensive, knowing full well that they would probably die at the cost of taking out 5 or 6 of Parfait's villagers. So we see now that Parfait is sneaking up his fort wagon here. He's going to want to place it right here, which will give him good control of the map. We see now cannons unpacking and taking a couple shots in on Grunt's skirmishers, and now Grunt has 5 culverins to Parfait's still 4, yes. So Grunt has the slight advantage here, but if Grunt can, or if Parfait can get this fort wagon start building, Grunt, and get some nice shots off. Parfait gets some shots off before Grunt, and we see now Grunt's cannons start unpacking unnecessarily. They get confused. He's up. Now it's 2-2. Parfait's down. Parfait takes out. He's going to take out all of Grunt's culverins. Parfait now has a strong military advantage, with Grunt only have 1 culverin, and he has 2, perhaps more on the way. No, we don't see any. And 2 falconets. But what he's also doing here that's very important is he's taking control of the map. As in all RTS, it's very important to control resources. So what he's doing here is you see those hunting and gold here. And I think Parfait has just noticed that Grunt has a lot of villagers here. So if he can kill these villagers without taking too much damage militarily, he will even out the game as far as economy goes. Now we see Grunt pushing from the other side now with his skirmishers. It would be in Parfait's best interest to fight the skirmishers and then attack those villagers later, as there's nowhere they can really go right now. Again, we see Parfait's military getting shots off, his cannons getting shots off on Grunt's military, and Parfait has definitely taken the advantage now. He has taken out all of Grunt's artillery, has a sizable Reuter army, and we now see Grunt's villagers trying to escape. Oh, we got a little backdoor action here with more of Grunt's, sorry, I didn't notice that, of Grunt's cavalry attacking Parfait's villagers, and Parfait is just moving them away, and meanwhile Parfait's Reuters are going after Grunt's military, or Grunt's economy, Grunt's villagers, and getting a lot of shots off here. This is a big blow to Grunt's economy, and we also know that Grunt does not have the military at this point that Parfait does. And now we see Grunt getting or Parfait getting some shots off on Grunt's raiding cavalry now. So at this point, Grunt still with the 4 banks. Is starting to have to build a mill, which is one of the slower ways of getting food in the game. The longer that you can hunt, the better. We'll do a quick inventory of villagers here. Parfait has 1, 2, looks like he has about 7 there, 10. Parfait does not have many villagers at all. Maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 15, while Grunt looks to still has a sizable economy. So Grunt definitely killed a fair amount of Parfait's villagers in those raids. But again, Parfait has the military advantage here with 3 culverins, a sizable amount of Reuters. While we go back up and look, and Grunt also has the 3 culverins, but no falconets. So at this point, this is a very good game. It's already 25 minutes. Unlike some other RTS, such as Command & Conquer, age games can go for a very long time. Often are over within the first 20 minutes. But when opponents are so evenly matched and playing at such a high level, games can go for a really long time. And it's just a battle here of Grunt's skirmishers and culverins, as Grunt has not been building any falconets, which would not be of help to him because falconets are not very good against Reuters. Against Parfait's Reuter, falconet, and culverin army. Parfait's Reuters are coming up here on Grunt's economy. Looks like the fight is going to be brought to the last gold mine on the map that Grunt really has any access to. We see here now that Parfait has kind of taken control of this side of the map with that fort, and Grunt is forced to fight for this last gold mine. If he can't maintain control of this gold mine, he'll be in serious trouble because gold gathers very slowly if you have to build plantations, which are the equivalent of a farm that you get gold from. So now we see Grunt with 4 culverins. Parfait appears to have either 4 or 5. Yes, he seems to have 5 and the 2 falconets, and we'll see the culverins go at each other. Looks like Grunt gets the first volley off. Grunt getting a sizable advantage here. Perhaps not. Grunt now with 3 culverins left. You see the culverins packing and unpacking. This is just a a problem and is difficult to control. Parfait appears to be taking the advantage, killing all of Grunt's artillery and a good amount of his military while maintaining his artillery advantage and his Reuters. So this is right now is a problem for Grunt. Although he has more villagers, as we can see, than Parfait, who's quite low on villagers, he has no access to gold, which is very important. Many of these units that they're building are very gold heavy. For example, cannons cost a lot of gold, and Reuters cost a fair amount of gold, as do skirmishers. The Dutch villagers also cost gold. It's interesting here that Grunt is building another stable. I'm not seeing how he has the resources really to maintain production. We don't see any more anti-artillery from Grunt, so we see Parfait again pushing. This is the farthest he's gotten up in a little while. I guess he's actually going to retreat a little bit. Perhaps he is waiting for something to come up. No, perhaps he just thinks that Grunt has an advantage here. But again, he has knocked Grunt off of gold, which is vital. Well, he has the map control, fewer vills than Grunt. So now we see Parfait perhaps checking back on this gold mine. Again, he doesn't have line of sight here. We can see the whole map, but he is not aware that Grunt is not back at this gold mine. He does, however, know from seeing these carcasses that Grunt is up here hunting, or perhaps not. No, he doesn't see that. Perhaps he has not scouted this part of the map. So he's going to just kind of flank Grunt's town here. Grunt is electing to go with a more Reuter skirmisher-heavy army, and Parfait retreats. This is a change of tactic. We saw before Grunt going with more culverins, and now he's switching over to more Reuters. And Parfait is countering that by building skirmishers of his own, which we have seen counter Reuters quite well. Looks like Parfait is going to push up here again. And both players, thinking that they have a military advantage, are deciding to push at this point. It looks like Grunt is sending his Reuters ahead, perhaps trying to get some free hits off of Parfait's military or economy. And Parfait gets some nice shots in off of Grunt's military and is taking a sizable amount of his Reuters out here. The question is just whether the cannons will hold up to the Reuters, as Reuters do have a bonus against cannons. The Reuters are taking out the cannons quite well, but Grunt is also losing all of his Reuters. Parfait maintains a good number of his cannons, but there are the culverins, which are not particularly good against units, or are only good against artillery. So the battle at this point is pretty even. We see Parfait pull up a falconet, which he, if he can keep alive, which he will, can help to sway this battle in his favor, as we see skirmishers battling skirmishers. But again, Parfait, with a more artillery-heavy strategy, is able to hold off Grunt there. And then we'll go back to Grunt's town, and again, he just has the small army of skirmishers, while Parfait has the small army of skirmishers, Reuters, and artillery. We see some more Reuters coming out. This looks to be a failure on the part of Parfait in not scouting this part of the map before. If he had scouted that part of the map earlier in the game, he would know that Grunt is gathering resources there. Now we see Grunt trying to make a move to take out Parfait's falconets. It appears that he's getting some shots off. It's not clear whether he's going to be able to kill that falconet. Meanwhile, the falconet is shooting. He does not kill the falconet. Parfait holds off his Reuters, and Parfait definitely has a decisive military advantage now, having perhaps only 5 fewer skirmishers, a considerable amount of Reuters, and artillery to back that up. We see Parfait continuing villager production and pushing militarily on Grunt. His culverin is quite low on hit points. I think right now, if Grunt can manage a culverin, he'll take out both of Parfait's artillery. But at this point, Parfait, with almost as many skirmishers, Reuters, and more artillery, is at a definite advantage and is pushing hard on Grunt's town, taking out his economy. Now we see, we haven't seen this in this game, these are stratiats. These are mercenary cavalry, which are very strong. Look for these guys to take out Parfait's artillery. It's a battle of micro here to see how well Parfait can kill these without losing too many of his Reuters. We see a hit-and-run action where the Reuters will run away and then shoot, and then run away and shoot as Grunt now has the military advantage, being able to build those Stratiots, which are very strong cavalry. We now see here that Parfait has lost that advantage. Oh, and he comes back up again. Excuse me, he has a falconet, which that lone Stratiot probably would not be able to destroy. So now the militarily relatively even, as Grunt has a more skirmishers, a few less Reuters, but the Stratiot, whereas Parfait has fewer skirmishers, the falconet. Now we see Parfait is starting. Has shipped 5 spies, which we saw before. Spies have a bonus against mercenaries. So if Grunt brings that Stratiot, which is a Dutch special unit called the Vargelder, if he brings that in, Parfait should be able to kill him relatively easily with these 5 spies. So again, we see Parfait pushing. He knows that he's got artillery, and without seeing that Grunt has any artillery to counter him, he's going to continue to push. Because he knows he can protect his artillery. Again, we see Grunt's only source of income is from these banks here. He has control of no gold mines, and he has not built any plantations. Whereas Parfait is able to mine gold here as well as have his banks. Dutch against Dutch is an interesting game because very early on, as we saw, both players building a lot of banks, heavy investment in economy, and now as the game goes on, really only investing in military and not expanding their economy except to maintain villager production. So again, we see Parfait just using his artillery to attack Grunt's military buildings, and Grunt has built another stable, so this is not really a blow to Grunt at all. It is, again, to Parfait's detriment that he has not noticed all of these hunters that Grunt has over here. If he had noticed that, he would be able to exercise his military advantage much more effectively. Now we see the Reuters trying to sneak up, perhaps trying to kill that falconet, catch it unguarded. Parfait gets some good shots off on, kills the Stratiot, and gets some shots off on the Reuters too. We see Grunt now building up his skirmishers. We also see Parfait building 2 culverins. He's expecting Grunt to have culverins of his own, but at this point Grunt cannot maintain production of both culverins and skirmishers or Reuters just because he has such a little amount of gold that he has to choose between either skirmishers and culverins or Reuters and culverins, and he's elected to go Reuters. Whereas again, Parfait has the Reuters and artillery, and we're going to see Parfait, they're just going to do a little back and forth here. Parfait tries to get some shots in. I'd say the military event is pretty equal right now. Grunt is going to run up and try to take out this military, or to try to take out this artillery, sacrificing his Reuters, and is doing so quite effectively. Takes out the falconet, which is doing the most damage, and so now it's a Culverin Reuter battle against Grunt's many skirmishers. And so at this point, Grunt has taken advantage. It appears that Grunt's economic advantage has kicked in, and yes, Parfait realizes that he has lost. His economy just was not able to keep up.
All right, that concludes the first map. Thank you to Mr. Milo for being our voice and bringing us inside this Age of Empires game here on Cyberspace Stage 1. We'll be right back for the second of a best of 3 between I Am Grunt and Parfait once again.